So, alright, just a disclaimer before I begin this video. I finished my tea, which is sad. That's not the disclaimer, but might have to go make another one soon. If any of my friends are watching this video, I don't want you to be offended. It's nothing personal. I think that's the only disclaimer I need to make. We'll see what kind of happens as I keep chatting. As I mentioned, I don't script my videos, and this is one I just thought of in the last one. So words might come out and I might say them all wrong, and I'm sorry. I just broke that. I don't know how to start this video without sounding childish or offending my friends. But basically, I always felt I got along better with boys than with girls. I was never really your typical girly girl. She says wearing a dress and a bow, but anyway. Makeup was never my thing. Pink was definitely never my thing. Chatting about boys was never my thing, which we later discovered was not because of the fact that I'm a girl, was to do with my sexuality and romanticism. I still don't really know what that's called. There's a video I made about my asexuality last year, and there's a video going up about my romance in November nonsense, and I think I actually made another video about being queer as well recently. So I'll link everything all along and down below and everywhere. But yeah, there was just a lot to do with girls that I didn't really relate to. And there was so much drama. I think as a child, and I like to think still now, but especially as a child, I was always very mature. And I was very introverted, as we discovered in last week's video. And I don't know if the problem was the girls or the people specifically that I was friends with. Again, no offense to the people I'm friends with. I really like to hope that you know where this is going, but maybe not, I don't know. I'm a bit nervous now, but anyway, we'll continue. Even in primary school, I really did like my friends. And I think I remember that there was one friend who was a boy who I did hang out with. Definitely not a boyfriend, but just a friend who was a boy, and I remember really enjoying that. And I remember there being a couple of boys in my class that I would have liked to be friends with, but nothing like serious, whatever. And then I moved to Australia, and for the first few years in Australia, it didn't really matter, nothing's important. But when I started my secondary school, I moved schools, and when I ended up in the school I was at, there were definitely a few boys I really would have liked to be friends with, and I kind of half was. Now I think one of the things that played a part in this was also, oh, I'm gonna sound so rude now. Basically, we had different math streams. Without trying to show off, I was in the top stream, and there were a couple of boys who were also in the top stream, and none of my friends were in the top stream. That's just how I'm gonna say that. And it was nice to be able to talk about not just maths, but higher levels of education. I don't know how to speak about this. My friends by no means are dumb. They're all off doing really cool things in university. In fact, some of them might be graduated by now. I don't know. They're certainly all doing more than me, who went to drama school and hasn't gone to university. So, you know, they are definitely not smart. But in school, I found myself to be able to have more intellectual conversations with some of the boys. That might also just have to do with the types of conversations we had. But I really enjoyed that. And just in general, I think I spoke about this in last week's video, I really enjoyed some of the conversations I had with the boys, because very often it was more deep and meaningful rather than surface level. But the thing that annoyed me to no end were two things. Number one, anyone who saw you chatting to a boy or talking about a boy immediately went, ooh. And it was always assumed automatically that you had a crush, or that the boy had a crush on you. And number two, I always felt almost a nervousness because I was worried that the boys would think that because I wanted to talk to them, I had a crush on them. Do you see how those two are different? You might not, but bear with me. Basically, I would have loved to be properly friends with a lot of the boys in school, but I felt like if I tried to be friends with them, A, everyone around me thought there was a thing, or B, the actual boys thought I liked them. And that was not something I wanted to happen. Again, as we've established, I'm not so much into crushes and dating, and yet when you're in high school, that's all anyone can really see. And it just feels like a real shame. Like, I'm sat here now, quite a few years out of school, and I do kind of regret that I didn't have more friends who were not females. That's just how I'm gonna phrase that. And I think it would have been nice, and it would have been good for me to have friends who were not female. I really do like my friends who are female, and I'm not trying to take away from that, but I think it would have been really good for me to have more of a balance. And honestly, a lot of the time I just ended up speaking to my family. I'm finding this really hard to explain, but basically it comes down to I just wish there wasn't such a stigma around boys and girls being friends, because I feel like I missed out on some really potentially good friendships that would not have turned into dating, hopefully, just because of that stigma, literally just because of that stigma. And then every so often, like that night I was speaking about in last week's video, every so often there would be a weird opportunity where I would just end up with a bunch of guys, and it would be so nice. Another memory I actually have, and I remember this one very clearly, in my last year of school there was one night where, again, I don't know why we were all there. Was it the same night? Maybe. And we were all assigned to different like tasks, and one of them was sort of like a puzzly task, and I was like, yes, sign me up for that. And it was like chopping wood and stuff, and I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And it was literally, I was the only girl, and then I think there were about 6 or 7 boys, and I just remember having so much fun. Like, it was just nice to be surrounded by like such a different energy. Yeah, that was really nice. I remember that night. And then also that just reminded me of another thing I wanted to share. When I was in, I think it was year 10, for the record, Australian schools only go up to year 12, and that's like your 6th year of secondary school. So when I was in year 10, I remember being put into a class without any friends. In school, they always tried to make sure that you had at least one friend in your class, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know how it ended up that I ended up with no one, but it was a really weird class. And it was mostly girls, and then there were 6 boys. That's what I remember. And 4 of those boys were either ones that were in that top math stream or that were friends with each other. So I kind of was semi-friendly with them anyway. They are also the ones I was talking about both other nights. And I remember at first being a bit annoyed that I wasn't with any friends, but very quickly realizing what a blessing it was. Because I still hung out with my friends loads, you know, every recess and lunch and whatever. But because of the way the class was, obviously those 4 boys had each other. But I kind of had no one, kind of. I mean, there were a couple of girls in the class who were really nice to me and whatever. I'm brushing that off like it's no big deal. It was really nice of them. But basically, at the start of every day, we had like before the first class, like a sign-in lesson. I don't know what it's called. We had like 10 minutes of just sitting in our class, sorting things out for the day. But very often our teacher came late. So everyone would be chatting, blah, 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 and I would always kind of be there on my own. And very often I did just end up going to the 4 boys because I was friendly with them. And it was nice because I liked them without liking them, you know? That's the other thing. You can't say you like someone without immediately having those other implications. I know this is a really long video. They've all been very long and I'm chatting a lot about nonsense. And it sounds like I'm complaining a lot. I know that as well, and I don't mean to come across that way. These are all just lots of thoughts I've had on my mind that I just need to get out. And I think my point of this video, as I said earlier, is just that if you are currently in school, or even if you're not, let's just try and get rid of that stigma of boys and girls chatting must mean crushes, you know? Because A, that is so heteronormative, and B, that's so restrictive. And I know that there are plenty of people, even in my school, who didn't have a problem with still sort of being friendly with guys. But sadly, that was not sort of the crowd I was in. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. And let me know your thoughts on all this down below. Let me know if you really relate to what I'm saying, or if you have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'll see you all soon.